Let's see if this works.
Hi, I'm Tony Russell-Rose, and this is a talk on designing for consumer search behaviour, co-written with my colleague Stephen Macri. So the motivation for this talk really stems from the observation that in the AI community we've got a great tradition of studying information-seeking behaviour, and there are an abundance of research models that we can use to drive design insight. But if you actually look at mainstream design practice and talk to practitioners within the user experience community, you actually find that the take-up of these models and awareness is actually a couple of orders of magnitude lower than what we might hope or aspire to. So really this talk is about different ways that we might be able to bridge that gap. So part of that gap is no doubt caused by the fact that we're talking about two different communities here. On the one side, we've got researchers with their own traditions and their own ways of working. On the other side, we've got a design community with different ways of working, different traditions. And to a degree, what we're seeing is simply imperfect channels of communication between those two communities. But I'd like to think that there are other things that we can do. And as a vehicle for exploring those other things, I want to introduce a search model that we've been working on ourselves. So, but before I do that, I'd just like to preface it by talking about the ways in which search models can be derived. And I want to draw a distinction between what I call a traditional approach, which is illustrated here, where you start from interview transcripts and perhaps in some cases direct observation, and then you infer information behaviours, and from those you derive information needs, and from those typically that would lead to design insights. And as you can see, there's a progressive chain of abstraction here from left to right. And the approach that we've adopted kind of turns this slightly on its head, in the sense that our approach works directly from artifacts that are generated through actual client engagements, and they're an artifact of a user-centered design process, but they're essentially an end user or stakeholder verbalized information need. And what we've been doing is using these information needs directly to derive information behaviors and design insights. So it's a much shorter chain from the data to the design insights. So let me talk a little bit about the model that we've generated. I've illustrated it here with the circles, and obviously for the brevity of the talk I won't be able to talk in too much detail about these. But what I'd like to do is return to the original theme and talk about the ways in which we can close that conceptual gap between the models and the research insights and the actual design interventions that make the difference between a model sitting on a shelf and gathering dust and actually having impact within the user experience community. So one of the simplest things that we can do in helping drive adoption of an information-seeking model within the user experience communities is simply spending some time thinking about the examples that define and bound the scope of possibilities for a particular aspect of that model. And as you saw on the previous slide, there are 9 modes associated with our model. So what we've done is we've started to think about simple visual examples of each of those modes. And here's the first one. This is locate. And what we're showing here is essentially that locate is more than just findability. There are all sorts of other ways we can support locate behavior. And here's a simple example of autocomplete, which essentially helps an end user get an idea out of their heads and into the search bar. Likewise, also to support the locate behavior, we have partial matches. And here's a good example where the user's entered a long query string, but it hasn't returned a match for that exact query string, but there are a number of partial matches. And the way it's illustrated here with the strike-through font encourages the user to formulate or to reformulate more productive queries. Moving on, next mode, verify. Here's an example here. The item previews that we see here allow the user to stay on the page and to make more informed judgments about the suitability of individual results within the context of the overall result set. And likewise, you can kind of flip that on its head and think not so much about results, but about queries. And instant results itself provides real-time support to the end user to show how their current query is being interpreted, and therefore helps them verify that it is actually articulating as accurately as possible their information needs. Compare, and here's a simple example of comparing qualitative data over on the left with the classic sort of e-commerce compare view, and over on the right we've got a quantitative view doing a very similar task, but obviously with a different sort of data. Comprehend, and here the example is really just simply showing that faceted navigation in itself supports comprehension, because it provides an overview or an aggregate view of that information space, and the record counts obviously, and the distribution of record facet values play a crucial role in helping the user understand the overall information space. Explore, a crucial part obviously of exploratory search behaviour, and here's some simple examples of that. The illustration of the ways in which hyperlinks are shown in different colours depending on where you, to differentiate between where you've been and where you might want to go. And Amazon also provides some good examples of this with their recent history and recent searching. And of course, in an e-commerce environment, C also provides serendipitous discovery, encouraging users to explore things that are related to their current information need. Auto-suggest can go far beyond just the simple drop down with textual content, and here's an example where, again, it's showing all sorts of different content and media types related to a simple but potentially ambiguous query. Analyze, more complex type of behavior, and here we've got the examples of different views here showing how we can switch between analyzing kind of textual content versus a more detailed view and perhaps a more visual view over there on the right. And switching between the two helps support switching between exploration and analysis. And of course, information visualization, a couple of examples here. Moving beyond the level of looking at individual results, you might want to look at patterns of distribution across the results set, across the collection as a whole, and there's all sorts of different ways information visualization can support. So really that's it. Two main themes is obviously the first one is the model itself that we've introduced and the way we've introduced it, and shortening the chain of inference from information needs design insight. But most importantly of all is you know, how do we make our work as researchers have impact within the design community? And I think a simple step we can all take in that respect is to think about how we would ground our research insights in the form of concrete design interventions, and worked examples are a great way of doing that. So that's any questions, you can contact me at the addresses below or the contact coordinates below, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed it.